Thank you so much for joining us for this panel. We're really excited to have two very distinguished members of the tech ecosystem here in London to talk more about the topic, which is finding balance as an entrepreneur. Who in the audience is an entrepreneur or looking to start a business as an entrepreneur? Put your hands up. Wow. Okay, great. Any investors in the room? Okay, I think it's just you, so everyone's going to come and talk to you. Do we have any ecosystem builders, people supporting entrepreneurs? Okay, fantastic. And two more questions. Has anyone been doing any adult education, lifelong learning education, not university, but sort of, okay, we have one person. Okay, that's interesting. So no one's done any courses or anything like that. Okay, we have another one there. Okay, that's two people. Great. Terrific. Well, look, I am joined by Nikki Wicks, who is the CEO of The Body Coach. You may or may not remember, but during the pandemic, we had Joe Wicks. Nikki is actually the brother of Joe Wicks, who in their family had kind of enjoyed doing Joe Wicks on television, or YouTube, I should say, sorry. We have a few people, that's great. So we're delighted to have you, Nikki, and Ria, who is the co-founder of Framework, which is a lifelong educational tool for entrepreneurs. I highly recommend it. So let's get going. So maybe a little bit more about yourselves and your businesses, just to give the audience some context.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Jared, for the introduction. A little bit of context. I'm the co-founder of Framework. We describe ourselves as an on-demand business school, especially for startup land. And really, we're on a mission to reimagine business education for the future of work and society. We've been on a bit of a journey. We've been on this mission kind of for 3 years now. And we originally started as a full-time, immersive, alternative MBA, where we worked with about 100 tech operators across some of the fastest growing businesses to reimagine a business curriculum for today's world. And we're now, over the last year, we have basically, through huge success of that program, we're now productizing a lot of those insights into what we're calling a lifelong campus that lives in your pocket for startup professionals around the world. Before that, I'm a lifelong learner myself, so we need to get more hands up in the room. I've had a couple of different kind of career journeys and seen the power of lifelong learning. I think the superpower that we're all going to need in the future of work is this ability to continuously learn and continuously reinvent ourselves.
Terrific. Thank you. Ria. Nikki.
Hello, everyone. So my name's Nikki. I am the CEO of The Body Coach. I'm also the brother of the founder, Joe, who's my younger brother. The Body Coach is a health and fitness brand we've been building for about 10 years now. My brother started as a personal trainer in parks, went on to launch a online PDF product, which we ran for about 6 or 7 years. 600,000 people around the world signed up to that. And most recently, we've transitioned that product into an app. So we're now a tech company, which I'm still trying to get my head around. We start pre-pandemic. We were about 10 people. It was myself and Joe and 9 or 10 customer support heroes. We worked with an agency who were building our app. We're now bringing all that in-house. So we're 37 people now. As you said, a lot of people came to familiarize themselves with Joe through PE with Joe in the pandemic. But we actually have been building the brand for a lot longer.
That's great. Terrific. So, and my name is Gerard Gregg. I'm the founding chief executive of TechNation. TechNation runs a number of growth programs for entrepreneurs and founding leadership teams. And one of the things that we very much talk about is the fact that entrepreneurship, anyone can be an entrepreneur, but it's not necessarily for everyone. And we're quite unapologetic about that because it is a roller coaster ride with lots of peaks and troughs. And your ability to regulate your emotions as you go through tough moments, whether your servers or AWS is down or something else is happening, something's not launching, the sprint team hasn't actually delivered what you're looking for, and you've actually kind of committed something in the media, it can be very, very painful. And being able to deal with that is always a challenge. And we find that repeatedly through the companies that we serve and help. So this topic is really about finding balance as an entrepreneur. So, Priya, why don't we start? Sorry, Ria, why don't we start with you? How has it been so far being a leader of a high growth, high potential startup? What have you come to realize? And then we'll get to the second part of the discussion, which is like, what habits and choices have you made as a result of that realization?
Well, I think the point you made around entrepreneurship isn't necessarily for everyone is an interesting one. I sometimes describe myself as a reluctant entrepreneur in that I wasn't exposed to entrepreneurship, I think, growing up, and I'm not the daughter of entrepreneurs, and so it was never really a career path that I think I had personally, set my sights on. And it was until I saw a problem in the world that I felt like compelled to solve, that I couldn't not solve. And so I would say, whilst entrepreneurship might not be for everyone, I think there's sometimes it might not be that you found the right problem or the time might not be right. I would say once and a little bit of history on that story. I'm a finance dropout. I started my career as a trader at JP Morgan, spent 5 years in financial services, and ended up navigating a career pivot into startup land via 2 incredible alternative education programs that really showed me the power of mid-career education and this kind of realization that the future of work is being created by businesses that are impact-driven, entrepreneurial, and as humans, I think we are born to create. And so in navigating that career pivot, I ended up having so many conversations with friends and friends of friends who were looking to do something similar. And it was one particular conversation that I had that sparked the idea for what we originally called Founders Academy. And it was from that moment it was really captured that I felt like this was what I was kind of born to do. And so I would say that I think it's really important as an entrepreneur to be really married to the problem. Our solution has drastically changed. We were a full-time immersive program. We now are an app business. And I think if you're, it is really hard. And I think being really married to that problem that you're trying to solve is an important part of having that driving force, I think, behind the why of what you're doing to weather the highs and lows.
And you said you didn't find yourself thinking that you would be an entrepreneur, but how did you come to that realization, and how did you get over that, I guess?
I think a big part of it is also before I did become an entrepreneur, I was lucky to have been surrounded by a few. I had my baptism of fire, as it were, in the startup world, and I think we learn also through apprenticeship, and I'd been the right hand of 2 incredible founders. So I think firsthand I'd witnessed and understood what it means to be an entrepreneur. What are you actually doing kind of day to day? What responsibilities fall in your remit, but also potentially the sacrifices that you may have to make. And I think a lot of things came together for me personally. I was captured by the problem. The timing felt right, and it felt like, again, like I said, it was this moment where I felt like compelled to go on that journey.
Got it. Nikki, what is it like being an entrepreneur?
Bloody hard, isn't it? When I told my friend and my brother actually on Friday that I was doing this panel today, he said, "Oh, great," because I get very nervous doing speaking events, so I avoid them at all costs, and I'm trying to challenge. This to me today is about trying to kind of challenge myself a bit on that. But when I told Joe the topic he said, "Oh, what's here to talk about?" I said, "Oh, finding balance as an entrepreneur." And he just burst out laughing and said, "Oh, chance to be a fine thing," because this is a topic that I have battled with. It is really hard. I find that it's a journey. Every time I think I've cracked it, 1 week I'm like, "Oh, I had a great week. I've good balance in my family, my work, my colleagues," and then Monday morning the following Monday it all goes wrong again. Challenges. So it is hard. I think it's the journey, though. I don't think there's an end point. I don't think there's ever going to be a point where I'll go, "I've cracked it." But yeah, it was interesting hearing your journey. I think you said apprehensive. Did you say apprehensive CEO? Is that what you said?
Yeah, reluctant.
Reluctant.
Yeah.
Sorry, reluctant. Yeah.
And apprehensive.
Reluctant and apprehensive, yeah. I'm sort of seeing myself as like an accidental CEO, really. You know, my brother called me about 7 years ago. I was living in Singapore, working as a magazine editor, loving life, loving Singapore, loving the weather. And he's like, oh, you know, this thing started to grow, like, come and help me. And it took about 3 months to convince me to come back. And firstly, I didn't want to work with my brother. I was like, this could be dangerous. Family, we're very close. We're very, very close as brothers and friends. But I was like, you know, working, family, there's always been that thing of, is it a good idea? I think I'm past that now. We're 7 years down the line, so I think we're in the clear on that one. But yeah, it's just something that's evolved and very driven by the purpose. And, you know, he said, come and help me get more people exercising and moving. And that was really appealing to me. And that's what we're still doing now. But the nature has changed as we've grown and evolved and reached more people. The business has grown very accidentally, actually. So I'm in the midst of this now. And even just reading that board where it says Nicky Wick CEO, I'm like, how the hell did that happen? Like, how did I end up as a CEO? But I am a CEO. I'm definitely doing it right now. You know, I'm managing very senior people, which is new to me, very challenging. But I love it.
And what's particularly challenging, finding yourself working with people of a high caliber? What do you find particularly challenging?
I'll be honest. So for me, the journey's been me and Joe, very small team for about 10 years, just very building our brand very instinctively. I mean, you know, PE with Joe, 100 million people took part in that. On the Monday, the first day of lockdown, 950,000 people tuned in live to do the first workout. He announced that on the Thursday before. Between the Thursday and the Monday, it had been all around the world. We were on CNN. And it was very instinctive. We never had a plan. We never had a strategy. So we just did things that we felt were right. Now, got these people that are coming in, very senior people. Now, my head of engineering has come from The Economist, a very established legacy brand. And he's like, right, what's the strategy? What's the plan? What's the roadmap? And I'm kind of going, well, we're working through all of this stuff now, but we've never had processes. So that's a challenge for me. I guess we're kind of really now a proper business. And so that's where we're right in the midst of, for me, I'm kind of looking at these people I'm bringing in and saying, well, actually, I need you to help me do this. So I think that to me is a big one, like really leaning on, if you're going to hire people and bring people in, really handing over that trust, which I've found quite challenging.
Yeah, very much so. So we've got the accidental CEO and we've got the reluctant CEO. So I guess one thing we recognize in working with so many founders is that you said, Ria, being married to the problem, what we see is that the founding team going completely all in, working long hours, and sometimes we see sort of symptoms of burnout. What have you seen? What have you witnessed? How have you seen those symptoms? How have you found yourself coaching yourself and the team to find balance?
Yeah, it's really hard. My co-founder and I, we often talk about, they make the analogy of a startup's a little bit like a baby, and particularly in those first few years, it's just so fragile. Like it literally, you feel like it won't survive without you. I think that's true. I actually started the journey as a solo founder, which was even harder because you feel like you're carrying the weight of all of that on your own. I think my habits have definitely evolved as I've grown the team and found incredible people who, as married to the mission, I think, as I am, and really importantly, incentivizing those people and bringing them on and really giving them skin in the game, I think is important. I would say a few things. I think it's Alain de Botton, the founder of the School of Life, that says everything worth fighting for in life create some kind of unbalance. So I think there's just an element of, that moment you decide you want to go on this journey, being okay and kind of making peace with the fact that, not even making peace, recognizing it's a deliberate choice that you're going to probably overextend yourself in this area of life for a caution, like maybe a few years till you figure that out. And just being really clear with yourself around what are your non-negotiables in other areas of your life, but also recognizing that this is a choice that I want to potentially become world class at something, and I want to create something that I feel like I want to create this impact in the world, and that's a beautiful thing if you have that kind of right mindset.
Very much so. Nikki, on the symptoms of burnout, have you seen burnout in people or in yourself? How did you recognize it? What did you do to resolve it?
Yeah, I've definitely seen it in myself and definitely in my team as well. I think for myself personally, it's there's a couple of times where I would say I've hit that point. I don't know if burnout. I don't use the term burnout, but just completely exhausted mentally, and finding just things very difficult. And I have to have a very hard reset at that point. So the last couple of years, I've done two things that have when I've reached that point. And I went on a silent meditation retreat, and I also went away and left my phone and device. So for me, devices, I have to completely disconnect. Part of the challenge with our business and our brand is that it's been built on social media. A lot of and most of the activity comes in the evening and on the weekends. So we find ourselves, and Joe and I still run the social media channels. There's 9 million followers across those platforms, and we engage with them very directly. I mean, Joe will send 100 voice notes every day on Instagram alone. So we're very engaged, and because the engagement comes in the evening, so that's been hard. But what I need to do is, for me personally, I have to completely switch off and unplug. But I recognise it. I actually see it a lot in my, when I see it now in my team, I encourage things that help me. So going for walks, exercise. I just had a call 10 minutes before this from my head of people who's, was really, something's happened this morning, a fire, first thing Monday morning, and I just said, look, stop, just put the laptop down, go for a half an hour walk, get some fresh air, reset. I'll call you back when I've finished this. When, hopefully it will help clear our head. And they're things that I now use to kind of have like mini resets throughout the week and throughout the months, but I do once or twice a year have a big reset. Find myself needing that, yeah.
Yep. Sounds very healthy. Ria, you talked about the hang-ups. Can you talk a little bit more about the hang-ups you may have had and how giving those up made you thrive and even more as a leader? Because that's finding also a way of finding balance as a leader, entrepreneur.
Yeah. So an exercise that I've started doing every year, and we actually, when we created our alternative MBA, we actually encouraged our students to kind of do this exercise, is if you, hands up of who's familiar with the wheel of life. There's kind of like these 7 compartments of life from, health, work, friends, family, finances, that lead to kind of a fulfilling life. And trying to, on each of those dimensions actually, and it changes over time, define, what are the minimal investments that you need to make across all 7 to feel fulfilled? And it stems from this idea that there's a concept of emotional spillover. So if you're unhappy, physically, you're not feeling good, it's really hard to bring your best self to work. If you're not happy at home, so similarly, if you're not happy at work, you don't come home energized. But there's also positive spillover. If when you are feeling really energized at work, then you'll bring more energy back at home. And so kind of again, what is the minimum you need to do everywhere to not create the negative spillover, but then being really deliberate about, hey, these are the 2, probably, and it's probably not more than a couple of areas that you want to, overinvest in. That being said, I think, it's so easy to always get to be in the mindset of, you constantly feel that you're dropping balls. One thing that I think, my co-founder and I have worked on a lot is the idea of becoming very, really self-reflexive about the things that we both really deeply enjoy, where we feel we have true spikes. Because I think the thing is, you can work 12 hours a day, and there's certain work that you're doing that you feel actually quite energized doing, and there's certain work that you do that actually you find very draining. And over time, I've realized I'm definitely more introverted, actually. So a lot of the things like, if I spend a lot of my day doing sales calls and product demos, I'll end the day and I'll just feel exhausted, and I won't feel like doing that workout. Whereas if I'm a product person, I love spending my day thinking about user journeys. If I spend like a good portion of my day doing those things, then actually by the end of the day, I don't feel exhausted. And I'm, like you said, a very complimentary co-founder. So we've really thought about how do we each spend 80% of our day doing the things that we really enjoy and not letting titles get in the way. And so I actually don't wear the CEO hat anymore. We've called ourselves co-founders because we don't, again, let's do each task depending on who's the best person at it versus feeling like we can't do something because we don't have the right title to do it.
I think that's really interesting. I think there's been a huge evolution in the creation of a tech company 10 years ago versus now. And what you're saying resonates so much more because in the past, leaders just they felt they had to do everything. And even things they did not like, they just felt they had to do it because they were the leader and everyone expected them to do it. And now, more and more, we're hearing that you enjoy being a product person, therefore you're going to be at your very, very best every day and giving energy to the team and not having to do other stuff that actually just drains you. And if you do too much of that, then you won't be a very good leader around other people. So
can I just add one thing to that? Because someone said this to me and it kind of really helped. They reframed that thing. We talk about doing things you enjoy and don't enjoy, which is exactly right. But someone described it to me as do more of the things that give you energy and less of the things that take your energy away. And it's the same thing, but that really resonated with me because there are tasks that might be tough, but they actually give you lots of energy. So that's been useful to me to understand the things that actually drain my energy and the things
that gives you energy, Nicky?
Actually, a bit.
Black T-shirt? No.
My microphone was it was coming up. So like you, products. I think more on the product side. Operations, I'm learning is not my strength and takes my energy. So leaning a bit more into that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. Okay, so we have some time to just open up. I just felt that there were so many entrepreneurs in the audience, and I'm sure you have one or two questions. We've got a bit of time, but if you can sort of put your hand up if you have a question, say who you are, and just be very brief with the question, if that's okay. Anyone got any questions? Great. We have one person in the front.
Hi. Amazing talk. That advice that you both gave has really resonated with me, and I'm sure it's resonated with a lot of people here. My question is around sort of toxic positivity that I'm sure a lot of other entrepreneurs have seen, especially scrolling through social media, seeing other startups, other business owners, people are further along. And that, for me, is something that makes it really difficult to balance and take a step away from that and realize that I should stop comparing myself to people like that. Do you have any advice on how to tackle that? And, that's...
Brilliant. Can I just add to that? Because that's a brilliant question, because I think that kind of notion of just crushing it every day and just giving that positivity to everybody around you, when actually, are they really being authentic? I think there's more and more talk about, like, is that really required? And it's a really good question. It's very timely, especially as we go into the next phase of how things are looking in terms of the markets. But Ria, you looked eager to sort of respond.
Honestly, it's a great question. It's just really hard. I think as a society, just as humans, we are conditioned to evaluate ourselves against others. I think I'm now 35, and I only came at the entrepreneurial journey. I've only been at this for 3 years now, so I'm a late bloomer. And I think there's a part of it where I see 21-years who have IPO'd and all that, and so there's a part of it that I'm just kind of like I am on my own journey. I think as you mature, I do truly have a belief set in that what Nicky was saying around it really is about the journey. I think there's so much that needs to come into play to get an outcome necessarily that you want. But I do believe that all you can do is put all the probabilities in your favor. And I think that's about every day. We have one of our values. We have two values as a company. One is joy, which is enjoy the journey, make each day delightful. And I think what we talked about every day doing things that bring you energy. I think as a leader, you have a responsibility to help your team discover those things about themselves and multiply that. So I think as soon as I realize that I'm not enjoying the journey, and it's usually because of that, comparison, I realize I'm actually reducing the probability that I actually will be successful. And so sometimes it is just about turning notifications off, spending less time on social media, and practicing gratitude for the team around you and the progress that you're making kind of every day. I think you can also institutionalize habits and behaviors like celebrating wins. We do every Friday afternoon we do a bit of a team kind of ritual that we call Rose, Thorn, Bud, and we go around the room and everyone talks about a highlight from the week, a low light from the week, and something that they're looking forward to next week. And that heartbeat allows us to have our own narrative about our own progress. That's like just about how good we're feeling versus how we were feeling last week, as opposed to anything else around the world.
Yeah, I think you said it. It's the comparison thing, right? Like the thing that I've realised is there's no right way to do this. There's no like rule. There's no actual book that like is the right book on how to be a leader or a CEO. My team call me the crying CEO, which is they affectionately. I like to add. It's not a mean thing, but I cry all the time. Like I cry in a meeting, our weekly wrap-ups when something good happens. It's a miracle I haven't cried today, right? So they call me that, and I think it's about being authentic. Like, and I think the thing I probably say most to my team and to my leadership team is, I don't know the answer to this. I need help. I think if I tried to, because there was a period where certainly in the early days when we brought these senior people in, I was like, they're going to think I know all the answers and I know what to do. And actually, I had to let go of that and go, I actually don't know half the time what I'm doing. I know some of what I'm doing, but you can't compare yourself to anyone because no one's got it right. And on that, I've learned that through a network. I'm very fortunate to have some people around me, CEOs who are really good CEOs. And the more you speak to other people that have done it, you realise there is no right way, and you just got to figure out, I think most importantly is be yourself. And that's very cliche, I know, but I think it's important.
Yep. I just want to ask one more question, unless there are any others, but I think we've only got 2 minutes left. So what do you know now that you wish you knew before the journey began for you as an entrepreneur, in terms of balance and to the point that the person in the audience raised? Ria, we got 1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute for you and 1 minute for Nikki.
I would say that that trust in the journey and that trust in the process. I feel like life's narrative makes so much more sense backwards than it does forward. So yeah, it would be that.
Very good. Nikki?
Sorry, what was the question?
Just what do you know now? What do you know now that you wish you knew before you were asked to step into the seat of power?
Okay. Well, one practical tip, and it's going to sound really obvious because I work for a fitness company, but for me, my non-negotiable is exercise. It's my reset. It gives me energy. During 2 years ago, during really busy, stressful times, tired, it was the last thing I would do. I've managed to sort of train myself that when I'm feeling like that, it's actually the most important time to do that, to exercise. It can be a walk or a run, but that mental clarity, energy, that daily reset for me is so important. And I wish I'd known that 2 years ago, because now it makes my life a lot easier. It's almost like releasing the valve every day. Slightly obvious coming from me to say that, but I'm going to say it. Exercise every day.
Yeah. I think just to finish off, that's absolutely awesome. I think what you've said is so true. We see it so repeatedly in founders and very successful founders, and dealing with the ups and downs, regulating your emotions and how you respond to those situations. Because when you're all in and married to the problem, you can take everything super personal. And the journey, part of the journey that we've seen repeatedly in founders is how do you start to let go and not be the company, and start to let go and actually let people take ownership of things that you are so obsessively connected with, and let the whole company start to take over and start to find yourself in a more of a coaching leadership, servant leadership mentality. And that's just really, really hard. And there is no playbook, to your point, Nikki. It's all to do with your values, how you were brought up, how you were programmed, how the team has been brought up. And it's a whole physiological minefield to some extent. But it's fun. I mean, finding that is fun. And that's what makes great leaders human. And I think we believe that humans make great leaders. So thank you so much, Ria. Thank you so much, Nikki. Very lucky to have you here today. Thank you, everyone.